Alright, so we're going to start out with the head, this wooden armature stand, so our head doesn't bump over, and some images with some measurements on them. Utilize those, as well as later on, some more detail going into different viewpoints and stuff like that. But to start out with, just sort of a front end profile. And you can also utilize, when you're in class, these plaster models to measure off of. That's about the size that we're going. It's a little smaller than actual human size. But anyway, I'm going to start it out with it, because we're going to be making a mold, I'm going to start it with the head facing one of the corners of the board that you're using. Alright? And then we'll start building up the clay. Now sometimes I've done ones where I've done just managing the profiles. In this one, I'm going to kind of build a neck and a ball kind of shape. Alright, so let's go for that. So I'm speeding it up here. And one of the reasons why we do it towards the corner, didn't really answer that. When you make a mold, it helps prop it up a little bit. So that can really help when we're making the mold, have gravity work with us. We're going to end up leaning it backwards and such. Anyway, so I'm kind of fast time going quickly here, building the clay up, roughing at a shape off of those general height measurements. But then again, stop every now and then, slow down, go back to your pictures, and like really check those measurements. You may need to cut some away. You may discover, oops, I'm wrong. Then you bring out the butter knife or whatever tool, and I've made the head too tall, so I got to cut it back. You can't get, set on something you've done. If you go back and check it and it's not right, you got to change it. So that's why you want to leave it rough for a while to get those proportions right. And you can use a variety of tools. The calipers that I just pulled up there can measure right off of if your picture is to scale, it helps to have that picture to scale. When you're printing out, the scale of this is about 7 inches from the bottom of the chin to the top of the head. And the top of the head is in the back. So again, speeding up, you can see me making marks, kind of just gouging marks where the lines are, the eye line, a line down the side of the head, so that I sort of reference off of that, so as I can have that line marked down the side, and then I can measure out from that to the front and back. And keep going, and going, and going. So it's important to keep going back and checking those things. At some point here, I thought I had something reasonably right, and then I went back and realized something was off, and I changed it quite a bit. That is a normal thing. You got to kind of spend some time with leaving it rough like that, so that you can do that. So you can take the time to kind of fix those things. And then getting the ears in, too, but going off of those measurements. So, I decided to slow down. So taking it and looking at those, where those ears are, and I mark those off, kind of continue, and then continuing again, speeding along. But this takes time. So you don't want to rush it. Like I said, don't put any features in. And I'll say that again at the end. You just want to mainly make sure that you really check those measurements and double check. And keep, referring to that guide. One more thing to remember when you're checking on your head, look at it, stand on top of it and look at it from above to see these kind of distances. So if you look at it from above, you can see how these surfaces this might be coming out too far, that might be going too far back. But you look at the whole shape of the head, from above, it can make a big difference. Alright, so jumped ahead, but basically kept going and using those measurements up off of the photos, printouts, to make sure the eyes are where they need to be, the mouth, end of the nose, some of the width of this, measure that off here, and again using the calipers, I can use that, can take it down to this, my picture, and I can use that to kind of go still could shave a little bit more off. Same thing from the other side, just kind of roughing it out. Do not, the main thing about the first week of working on this, you don't want to, the first couple of periods, you want to focus on trying to get all the proportions right. So don't start to get into putting eyes, a little bit more of the mouth in there. I started on that, but just kind of rough it out, keep it simple. But so you can get the proportion without getting into details. Another nice thing to do sometimes is take a flat tool and like make flat planes, so you can kind of see that this matches that, so you have some symmetry. Because again, if you start putting in details too soon, so you're going to spend some time to get it comfortable that it has, the right proportions, and that means you work a little bit, you go back and check and recheck, because it's always like you end up moving things around. Anyway, cool. One more thing. Make sure that before you leave it, make sure you spray it down. You don't want it drying out before you're going to work on it next time. I like to spray some water at the inside the bag. There's almost like a moist rainforest environment. Make sure you seal it around the base. You can even tuck it underneath the base. So it's good and sealed, so your bag doesn't have any holes. All right. Don't forget to wrap it up really good before you take off, because otherwise it'll be too dry to work with next time. Even when you get done, when you're completed with it, make sure that you keep it damp, moist, because the mold making process we're going to use, we're going to put metal shims into it. All right. Okay.